You got to remember, these area coaches are responsible for recruiting these schools. The reason the video click rate goes up is because if you're sending it to the area coach that is responsible for your school, he doesn't want to be the guy that didn't watch the tape and other schools
Yeah.
offer you. That's why the click rate goes up. There's a lot of pressure on these coaches. If you're responsible for this school, and you're sitting in a staff meeting one day and they're like, hey, I saw this kid somewhere, or whatever the case may be, and he's got 3 or 4 offers. And the head coach says, well, what schools he go to? And somebody says the school, and the head coach says, well, okay, whose school is that? And the coach raises his hand. He says, well, why don't you know about this guy?
Ooh.
That's why the click rate goes up. That's a terrible position to be in as a coach.
You're listening to the Football Scholarship Podcast, the playbook for parents and athletes who want to secure the best football scholarships possible. From securing a D1 football scholarship in the SEC at Ole Miss at just 5'7", 150 pounds, myself, to helping 83% of the athletes I mentor achieve football scholarship offers and 42% going Division I, I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me and my co-host Brian Overton, who has 15 years of D1 college football recruiting experience, as we interview top experts, successful athletes, and discuss current recruiting trends. Together, we'll help you navigate the recruiting process so you too can achieve your dream of running out of that tunnel in front of 100,000 screaming fans. If you want to start reaching out to college coaches, but you don't know exactly who to reach out to and what to say, then in this podcast, we're going to break down exactly who you need to reach out to and what you need to say so that these coaches actually open your email and DMs and respond back to you. And joining me today is our head football coach here at Next Play and our co-host, Brian Overton, who has 15 years of Division I recruiting experience. And so a lot of the players and families that reach out to us, their kid is a great player on the football field and does so well, but he really struggles on the business side, on the marketing, on the outreach. And so we really want to break down for you, who are you reaching out to first, right? A lot of the players, they're shy, they're introverted, they're underdogs, they're Cooper Kupp on the football field. But when it comes to the business side, they're the coder at IBM, right? So, we really just want to make it easier for you. We want to make it easier for you to do this, right? And so obviously I earned a D1 football scholarship in the SEC. I did a ton of outreach. I actually did it with the phone, which is even harder. And then Brian, who has, been recruiting for 15 years, we really want to break this down for you. And so our initial step in this process is you've got to be posting. You got to be posting consistently. You need to be tagging coaches. You need to be following coaches. And when they follow you back, you got to DM them, right? And the reason you got to have that vehicle there is because once you start doing what we're going to talk about now, which is doing the outreach to college coaches, they're going to go and check you out. And when they go check you out on X, they need to be able to get to know you. And they get to know you by you posting consistently, not just your highlights, but the food that you're eating, the workouts that you're doing, the stuff you're doing off the field, what you're into. Then when you do outreach to them, which is what we're going to talk about on this video, they already have a sense of who you are and they're more apt to get on the phone with you, which is what we want them to do, right? After they've watched your video. So who you're going to reach out to, you're going to reach out to all the college coaches at the schools that you've identified, that because you got a professional evaluation, that you're graded in that scholarship zone, right? So by the way, if you haven't, shameless plug, if you haven't gotten a professional evaluation, you'd like us to do it, I'll leave a link in the description below to see if your son meets the criteria to get a professional evaluation. But during a professional evaluation, you're going to be told what division your son has the best chance of earning a scholarship at. You identify which of those schools that you have the best chance of earning a scholarship in, right? Now that you know, well, who do I reach out to? A big mistake a lot of players make is they just reach out to the to the position coach. But most schools, especially at the higher levels, do not recruit on position. They recruit on areas, locations. So the first objective is to find the area coach at each one of those schools. And Brian, if you want to break down how you go about doing that, but uh,
Yeah.
or let me ask you this: what is an area coach, right? Because a lot of people get confused. Like,
Yeah.
I go to their
Good question.
website, there
Good
are
question.
no area coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why we wanted to do this, guys, because this, it's a pretty frequently asked question. When they hear area coach, they're like, "What the heck is that? I've never even heard of that." Again, because you're not usually not going to find it on a website. It just lists as position, and that's it. So how area coaches work is, there's 10 full-time assistants on each staff. Okay. And typically, and now I want to preface this with there are a few out there that do not use the area coach system, like Richie said. Some of them do positionally recruit. There's not a lot of teams that do
Yeah.
that, though. Okay. Typically, that is a lot of the smaller divisions who can't travel as much with budgets and things like that. Okay. But for the most part, they can get more bang for their buck having area coaches. And what that means is, again, you've got 10 assistant coaches on a staff, okay? And what they do is they assign each one of those guys an area of the country to recruit, okay? Um, so I'm gonna just use an example real quick of where I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So let's just use the University of North Carolina because I worked there back in the day. The University of North Carolina, again, has 10 position coaches. For their home state, okay, they're typically going to give a piece of North Carolina to all 10 of those guys. Okay, they might give each of them 8 to 10 counties, or they may do it by school. They may give each of them 100 schools in North Carolina that they are responsible for recruiting no matter what their position they coach. Okay, the quarterback coach, the running back coach, the D-line coach, doesn't matter what they coach, you're responsible for these 100 schools in North Carolina. So his job is to go to those 100 schools when when the period is open for them to go into high schools. His job is to go in there, gather all the information from every position at that high school that the coach thinks can help them win or as a scholarship player, and bring that back to the position coaches at his school at North Carolina or to the recruiting department to get them evaluated and start the recruiting process. So, for example, if I'm the quarterback coach at North Carolina, I go into my 100 schools. I'm bringing back defensive linemen. I'm bringing back offensive linemen. I'm bringing back linebackers. Any player at that school that they think could be a scholarship player for them. Okay, they're there to gather
Right.
information. But that is the school that is going to go into your school every time there's an opportunity to go in there. Okay. So that's what an area coach does. Now, if I'm at the University of North Carolina and I'm the quarterback coach, because of our recruiting footprint, whatever they deem that is, where they want to spend their time in recruiting, but just because it's a neighboring state, I'll make an example. I may also have an area in South Carolina that I'm responsible for. Okay. And it may not be as many schools. I may have 25 schools in South Carolina that I'm responsible for. Okay. And the same thing applies. I go down there when the recruiting calendar allows me to, and I go to those 25 schools and I bring back kids from each of those schools at any position, okay, that we feel like can be scholarship players for us, okay? And I bring them back to either the position coach or the recruiting department. So that's kind of what an area coach is and his responsibility is. So if you hear us say area coach or you hear area coach, the very simple explanation is it does not matter what position they coach for their team. Their job is to go recruit that area that is given to them and those schools that are given to them and gather information on all players at that school at every position to bring back to their school, to either the position coach at their school or the recruiting department at their school to get them evaluated and start the recruiting process.
Right. Yeah, it's like layers, right? So like they don't it would be crazy to recruit by position, especially if you're recruiting nationally because you'd have to recruit every coach would have to recruit every state. It would be insane. So, so then it's okay, well, we'll recruit areas. So let's make it simple, right? So you have this particular area and then there's layers. So let's talk about the layers, right? So layer one would be the area coach watched the video, met the kid, likes him. Second layer, then that area coach would take it to the position coach. Position coach says,
Correct.
cool, really like it. Boom. That coach would then take it to the coordinator, offense or defensive. Hey, we really like them. Boom. Then we take it to the head coach, and the head coach gives the go ahead, in some
Yeah.
cases, right? Walk through behind the scenes, and, Arkansas is one example, but, most of the parents and kids watching this are not going to Arkansas, right? So could you give us like behind the scenes those levels at Arkansas and then also behind the scenes at a smaller, maybe a Division II program, what that might look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So it and the funnel, and I'm gonna call it the funnel, going up to the offer stage is different everywhere at every school because of the manpower, so to speak, and the resources they have. So, like Richie said, I'll start at the top, of college football and in the SEC where I finished my career. Obviously, we had a pretty big recruiting department. We had a lot of people involved. We had a lot of people evaluating and things like that. So the area coach would, bring it back to us. We would evaluate it. And, then if we liked them and we felt like, we wanted to move forward with the process, we would take it to the position coach. Okay. As a recruiting department, and we would push it up the chain all the way to the head coach. Now, when you have enough people and you have people that are given decision making authority, like I had there, as a director, I could skip some steps. Like if I really liked the kid and the area coach brought it to me and he was a no brainer, I would probably just go right to the coordinator, get him to sign off on it. And if I felt that strongly about him, there was a 99% chance the coordinator probably was too. And then it would get to the head coach much faster, to get to the offer stage. Okay. So that's at the very high level where you have a lot of people and a lot of manpower. You can get things done a lot faster. Okay. Now, as you go down in divisions and things like that, the manpower decreases, and everybody does it their own way, guys. Just remember that, so this is not it's just like anything in recruiting. It's not cookie cutter. Everybody has their own way of doing it, but this is the general steps we're talking here. But people with not as much manpower, and it's mostly coaches doing it. That is the ideal funnel, for it to go through, is finding the area coach, building a relationship with him, getting the tape to him, getting him to watch the tape, and then everybody in that ladder, pushing it up the ladder eventually to the head coach. So it again, to retrace it, it all depends on the level we're talking here, and typically the lower, the lower the level, as you trickle down to the levels, sometimes it can maybe slow the process down a little bit more, to get it to an offer level. Now, remember this, guys. I do want to throw this out there. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Some head coaches give area coaches the authority to offer kids. Okay, they trust them enough that if they're out on the road and they go into a school and they see the kid and say they watch his tape or the head coach shows the tape or the kid shows him his tape, and he gets to see him on the hoof and eyeball him, height and weight him, things like that, and he really likes him and he thinks he's got to do it to get in the game, and not be late. Area coaches can throw out offers like that too. And this is a whole nother podcast. Now, is it committable or not? You need to watch our podcast that we did not too long ago on committable offers and what is a committable offer and what's not and how to find out. Okay. But they can throw out offers as well. An area coach. I'm not saying that it always is, again, cookie cutter where you have to push it all the way to the head coach to get an offer. But this is the absolute best way to our point in our initial conversation, how to get coaches to respond to you and start building a relationship with a coach at that school is 100% through the area coach. They are the first line of defense 9 times out of 10 in recruiting, that is going to watch your tape initially and decide whether it needs to be pushed up the chain. They're the coach, again, that's going to come by your school every time there's an opportunity to come by your school. So not only can you stay in contact with them through your outreach, you're going to get to see them face to face probably a couple, 2, 3 times a year when they come by your school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that allows you to build a better relationship with them every time they come by. So to Richie's point, that is the ideal funnel. It doesn't always go that way, but it is very accurate that if finding the area coach raises your chances of getting a response from a coach, even if you're just asking who the area coach is. You may not even hit the area coach on the first outreach. That's why Richie was
Yeah.
saying we have our guys reach out to all 10 assistants on the staff. And depending on how big the staff is, even the recruiting staff, simply asking who the area coach is. All right. If you're simply asking who the area coach is, the response rate is really high. Okay. Because all they have to do is send you a name.
Right.
All right. And then we have certain steps that we follow after we find the area coach. That is for a whole different topic. But, finding the area coach is critical. Is
That's
critical. I know I said a lot there,
yeah.
but I wanted to cover all the
That last
scenarios.
part and that's good. I mean, it's such good insight, right? Into like how college football works. And I know there's a lot of parents and athletes that want to know like what's actually happening behind the scenes. So I think it's really important when reaching out for the area coach. Yeah, you're going to get more responses, but if you're just reaching out to as many, like just getting email addresses is easy, right? Let's say you have all 8,000 email addresses, right? That's what we give our players. I mean, there's a lot of email addresses. You can use tools and do a mass email and send your film. But here's the thing, guys, like these coaches get so many emails to watch film, and it's not just customized. It's not customized, right? And then also, like, there's something to say about knowing the college football process, reaching out, finding the area coach first, getting them to respond, then customizing your message to get that coach specifically to watch your video. Your video rate goes through the roof. It goes through of people that actually watch it, right? And then of those coaches that actually watch it are willing to get on a call with you, right? And so if you skip that step and you just try to do the mass bulk watch my video, you're going to get just the amount of coaches that are watch your video are so much smaller than doing it the right way, getting in front of the right decision makers that can offer you, then building relationships with them, because you can't build relationships with 8,000 people at once. Like it's not going to happen, right? But if you get a professional evaluation, you have 60 schools that you're targeting that actually can offer you. You find those 60 area coaches and you spend every waking hour building relationships with those 60 area coaches, you're going to get the most offers possible, right? And so that's why this is such an important topic and such an important conversation. You can't build a relationship with everybody, right? So the more you target, the more offers you'll get, right? It's not the most emails that you send, the more email offers you'll get. The more targeted emails to the right people is how you get the most offers, right? And obviously, and build relationships with them, and then you get the most offers, right? So let me not skip all the steps, but
No.
uh,
And to Richie's point, guys, like you got to remember, these area coaches are responsible for recruiting these schools. Like I said, the reason the video click rate goes up is because if you're sending it to the area coach that is responsible for your school, he doesn't want to be the guy that didn't watch the tape and other schools
yeah,
offer you. That's why the click rate goes up. There's a lot of pressure on these coaches. If you're responsible for this school and you're sitting in a staff meeting one day and they're like, "Hey, I saw this kid somewhere," or whatever the case may be, and he's got 3 or 4 offers, and the head coach says, "Well, what schools he go to?" And somebody says the school, and the head coach says, "Well, okay, whose school is that?" And the coach raises his hand. He says, "Well, why don't you know about this guy?"
ooh,
That's why the click rate goes up. That's a terrible position to be in as a coach in a staff meeting. To have a kid at a school you're responsible for getting traction and people are talking about them and you don't know who they are, hadn't watched their tape. That's a terrible, terrible place to be. Trust me. I've been in too many of them where the coaches got undressed in there by the head coach because the kid was, getting a lot of activity and he didn't know who he was because he didn't take the time to watch the tape, whether it was emailed to him, DM to him, whatever the case may be. That is why the click rate goes up on the video when you find the area coach and you find the right guy to send it to. Okay. You can send it to the position coach. And if it's not in his area, we get guys get this all the time. Okay. They're doing it the right way, but we have kids all the time to get emails back and say, "Hey, appreciate you reaching out, but can you send this to Richie? He's your area coach." Right? You know what I mean? And so, that's how important it is. We're just, I did it for a long time. I'm definitely not making it, we're not just making this up. This is a real thing. So, but guys don't, a lot of people, like to Richie's point, don't know what an area coach is. You don't see it listed anywhere. It's not, it's just kind of a term that is used that we felt like it was important for you guys to understand who it is, what they do, and why it's critical, especially during this point in the year, in the off season, during this time of year, and when you're doing your outreach, to find these guys and get the tape in front of them as much as possible, because the spring evaluation period's coming up. They're going to start coming back into your schools. The camp circuit's getting ready to come up. All right. You get a chance to build a relationship with the area coach that's going to possibly be at the camp you're going to be at. So now you're in front of them again, and now you're working out in front of them. So that is a big deal right now during this time of year. In your outreach, is finding as many area coaches as you can, and once you find those area coaches, getting them to watch that tape.
Yeah, 100%. And I know you nailed it there. I know, like, the area coach term and everything. I mean, I kind of like I don't know if I kind of just like made it up, that I guess the word, or I mean, did you guys use that at Arkansas?
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
real
you guys
thing.
use
Yeah,
the
that's
same
what it's
term.
called.
Okay.
Literally.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I want them to know. Like, that is a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I thought I heard that's how I started saying it. I couldn't remember, but
Oh yeah.
nobody teaches it, right? Like, the people that know it are the ones that watch my YouTube videos, and my YouTube. If you search like how to get a football scholarship in it or anything like that, it's all my YouTube videos. Like, it's pretty much all my stuff. So, obviously this is what I'm teaching, and obviously we haven't released this new statistic, but our statistic went from 83% to 89% of the athletes we mentor have earned college football scholarships. It's wild. When only 1% in reality earn scholarships. So, um, you know, we're we're saying this for a reason, right? And so we hope that you take this, and whether you work with us or not, you implement. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you implement this as well. The parents that we work with, business owners, executives, they just don't have time or the desire to spend 100+ hours learning the college football recruiting and then having to coach their son through every step and then have to hold them accountable to it. They know that they could invest that time into their business and 100x what they would invest into mentorship, right? So those are the parents that, like, typically we work with. But if you're not that, like, taking this information and implementing it and spending the time to do that yourself, you're going to yield some wild results. And, like, you can even go to gonextplay.com, and you can look at what some of the parents that have said that don't work with us, that are like, I've implemented what you said, and or they don't have full-time jobs or whatever, and they want to spend hundreds of hours doing this, and they're like, it's been amazing. We got, so we're sharing this for you. Right. And so I hope you got value from this podcast. We don't want to beat the area coach horse too hard today. But we definitely hope you got value from this. And if you'd like to see if your son meets the criteria for a professional evaluation, so you are targeting the right schools, because if you're not targeting the right schools, everything we shared with you doesn't even matter. We'll leave a link in the description below. And if you're watching this podcast, wherever you get your podcast and you're not on YouTube, please definitely leave us a review and ask your question in that review. Brian and I use that to continue to come up with great topics of information that you're looking for, that Brian knows from being behind the scenes, or I know from also mentoring the athletes and doing it myself. And so that's what this is all about. If you are on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Scholarship Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And for more free resources, or if you're interested in working with us, visit gonextplay.com. Until next time.